Okay, welcome back to the Jiu Jitsu Mindset. My name is Pete Deely, and I'm back again with my professor, Professor Lucas Hubo. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning, Peter. Good morning, everyone. Hope you guys are well. How are you doing, Peter?
I'm well. I'm fully caffeinated with my
I'm
submission
still I'm
coffee.
still working on mine. I'm still working on
You're
mine.
still all right. Well, this is the one contest that I might be able to beat you in, is the caffeination race to noon. So several cups in, no competitions today, but if I was, it would be okay. Still has not been declared a performance enhancing drug.
Let's
Um,
keep like that.
okay, yep. And everybody asked me, where do I get this? And they can get it at the jujitsumindset.com website, and they can subscribe, get a bag, whatever they might like.
Perfect.
And Professor, we are a few months away from launching our first class of going to be
And
focused
exciting
on
news
kids.
coming in. Yes, it'll be really cool. I'm sure. I hope everyone like it. We're been working hard. Peter's been especially working 3 times harder than everyone, but it make it happen.
It's okay. I will have a degree in cat herding when we're done with this, but our first class is going to focus on
Start teaching
kids.
kids class, and then we're gonna have a PhD on
Yeah,
that.
indeed. Indeed. So if you go to the Jiu-Jitsu Mindset, it'll ask you if you want to leave your email, and we're hoping to get that out the door and ready for people to participate come September. So just nice little progress. So, Professor, the divine is so good to us. Like, these amazing people come to us and allow us to talk with them, get to learn about them, and it's been surprising in my mind, because
Yeah.
it must be you, because nobody in the jiu-jitsu world wants to go talk to the old beginner. But so you must be magnetic in the universe.
Sure.
But like everybody on social media, I come across people and you become fans of people. And I'm a fan of our guest today. I've been watching
Absolutely.
him for, years now. And so when he accepted, I kind of had my fanboy moment. I'm like, oh God, Professor Kenny. So Professor Kenny Kim, we are excited for you to be with us. Thanks for agreeing to spend some time.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on the show, and I'm really excited to share some good stories with you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
There is so many things that we would want to ask you and talk about. We're going to try to be disciplined with your time and not let things sprawl too out of control. But the place we thought we'd start was in your life. You devoted yourself to a particular set of activities, jiu-jitsu being perhaps core to this devotion. So the martial arts, jiu-jitsu, changes you, is a central part of like your experience. And I'm curious if you ever reflect back and go, had I not gone down this road, what road might I have gone down? So the road that you're on seems extraordinary to me, and you're affecting so many people around the world in a positive way. What might you have been doing if you weren't doing this?
Wow, I do think about that time to time. In the mornings, I just kind of what I do is I have a ritual. When I wake up in the morning, I usually try not to touch my phone for at least 30 minutes. That's my ritual. So I wake up, take a deep breath. I'm up around 5:30, 6 a.m. every day. So before my family wakes up, I'm up, I make a cup of coffee, and I have a beautiful backyard. I have a beautiful house. So what I do is I usually just go back and sit. I oversee our pool and our, beautiful landscape, hear the birds chirping, the squirrels running around, and it's just a silence, right? And I'm connecting with nature. And then I walk, I do a couple of laps around the pool. I step on the grass to, earth myself.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my ritual. It takes, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes, and it's a great time for me to reflect on, some of the things that I'm fortunate for. Like I look around, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm living this life, right? So going back to your question, I do think about that. Had I not, and I see the people that I grew up with around me, had I not, I would be just like them or not even in a better place than them. Mm-hmm. That being said, they're not in a great place. I know a lot of my childhood friends that are, I don't know, a few of them are obviously dead. And then I think that happens with, a lot of childhood friends, people go on different routes. And then I've got people that are in prison or were in prison and got out and are dead now. or the combination. Obviously, I've got some friends that are super successful, but then I look back at their success and said, just like me, they put in their time. But the success they have has no comparison to the success that I have, because we're not talking about just financial gains here. We're talking about, okay, it's a Wednesday. What do I have to do today? Okay, I wake up, drink my coffee, take my son to school, and then I go to the gym. And I hang out with my students for a couple of hours, train a little bit, sweat. Hey, you want to go have some lunch? We go get lunch, come home, take a nap. Okay, we'll go back in the evening if I want to. And so I'm looking at just the actual lifestyle and said, okay, who's richer? Because my buddies, I've got some multi-million-dollar friends, right? They're so busy that they have to have a barber come to their house to cut their hair. They have to, okay, which is great. Yes, they can afford it. But since you don't have that much time to do anything, like, I don't know what kind of lifestyle that is.
Right.
You know, again, people say money doesn't buy happiness. I think money helps you with happiness. Don't get me wrong. We all need money, right? But money is a time. You're trading time for money, right? And so for me to have this extra time, I feel like I'm the richest man alive, because I'm able to, I mean, literally, we probably, other than my son going to school, I mean, we spend almost every minute together.
Wow.
You know, we're always together. We're at the gym together. Like, I'm showing him the ways. He's just always around people where, you know, he's giving them high fives, dapping. Oh, we're gonna roll. We're gonna go hang out. Like, every day is just a, you know, hanging out ritual for us.
Right.
And so most guys can't even take their kids. Well, can I just drop my kid up? Can my babysitter or whoever drop off my kid here at, you know, in Jiu Jitsu or soccer? Like, I'm there. Like, this morning, he's got soccer camp, so I dropped him off. I watched him a little bit every day. I'm able to do that. So I think if I didn't have this, my life would be completely different. I seriously, I don't know if I would have a family. I don't know if I would. Yeah, I just.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And there's a famous writer, James Baldwin, right? And he's got my favorite quote on, like, money. How much money do you need? He's like, when you don't have enough money, it's like sex. It's all you're thinking about, you know? So like if they're below a certain level, lack of resources dominates your experience. And so it sounds to me like your early days might have had a certain intensity to them that gave you the choices to go down a road where that intensity gets reflected in things that disadvantage you, that don't build a life where you can spend your time how you want it. And some of your friends don't get to choose how they spend their time at all, because they're either passed or in somebody's prison.
And health-wise, I mean, I'm still in great shape. You know, physically, I feel great. I'm able to do this stuff. A lot of my friends are, you know, they're on medication, or people just of my age are on medication. They can't move. They're you know, problems with this and that. Like, I'm in a position where I feel so good. You know, other than you know, nicks and knacks. I'm getting older. You're gonna get little injuries here and there. Being tired. Other than that, I mean, I feel great. No medications. I'm just, you know, it's something that obviously you can't buy this. No matter how much money you have, you can't buy your health.
Without a doubt.
And that's awesome, Professor Kenny. It's like, great lifestyle for sure. But first of all, I was surprised also for the first 30 minutes without touching the phone. That's usually the first thing that people do, right? You wake up, like, you grab the phone right away.
It takes discipline, I think. And again, it goes back to jiu-jitsu and the martial arts, like having the discipline. So what I do is usually people are like, man, I don't know how you do that. I'm like, well, I don't know how you can't. Right. So one of the things that I do, like this year, beginning of January 1, I said, okay, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to have any alcohol. And people are like, why? Did something happen? Why not? This and that. And I would go out with people and I don't have to have it. I socially like to have drinks with people, but I didn't for 6 months. I just Memorial Day weekend, I had some people over at our house and I was like, you know, I'm going to drink beer again. So I had some beer. But what I'm saying is it's the discipline to know when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to commit and do it.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the phone. It's so hard because when you wake up, you're like, what time is it? And you want to tap your phone. And then Because you know what? Your phone's probably going to be mostly negative. You're going to have emails probably from your students. You're probably going to have this. You're probably going to have, and then you get wrapped into that. And if that's the first thing that you put your mind around, rest of your day is going to be ruined because that's the energy that you're carrying yourself.
Yeah, you start off with.
I'm not on that. Sorry, Peter.
No.
I'm not on that first 30 minutes, but I at least try to police myself on, okay, first thing that I do, it'll be like, kiss my wife and say good morning, because I know in the moment that I grab the phone,
yeah,
right? So,
It
like,
goes
especially like my whole family, friends back in Brazil, you have the time difference, so everything's 4 hours ahead over there. So like you start catching the everything.
So in those early days, Professor Kenny, I mean, there was a difference in the road that you took versus these other folks that you were around, your friends, and some went on to have certain types of successes and others not so much. What was a pivot for you? What brought you in the direction that you took? Was it a moment in time? Was there an epiphany, like, this is for me,
No,
or was it gradual, like one step
I've
after
always,
the other?
ever since I was a young boy, if you were to ask me, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And kids have, I want to be the president. I want to be a fireman. I want to be this. I said, I want to be a martial artist. I said, I want to own my own gym. And we're talking about years ago. I'm getting up there in age. And so, yeah, because I'm right now, I'm closer to 50 than I am to 40. So, I'm getting up there. And so as a little boy, that's what I thought. And that dream was always there in the back of my mind. So even when I went down the wrong way, I always came back to that.
Yeah.
Like the mats were always there for me. When I, effed around, I would always come back, and that would always be there for me. And then there was people, that were older, my instructors. People were always there to guide me straight. They never told me like, hey, you're doing bad thing. They just said, hey, look, this is what you should be doing. Like, you have so much, but like I had so much guidance and people trusting in me, like, hey, you could be the next this, you could be that, you could be this, that they stir me in the right direction. So I think it's important to have those like great mentors, and maybe you don't know their mentors until later on, but whenever you're on the mats, there's always somebody that's mentoring you.
Yes. Well, in that openness to be mentored, particularly as a young person, because, it's that famous quote by Mark Twain, my father was such an idiot when I was 13, and I was surprised how much he knew by the time I was 18. It's not that the dad changes, but your perception of the dad. So to be a young person, go in what is natural and I think often good to get a taste of what's not good for you, but then to be open enough to come back and listen to the mentorship that takes you in the direction that is a maturity of sorts, that obviously kind of served you well over time. My observation in terms of your story, and we can talk as much or as little about that as you want in terms of, there's books and there's videos and there's a lot of information about what does it mean to you to be mat made. But when I observe your relationship to other people, the extreme situations that people have brought to you, veterans with PTSD, domestic violence, obesity, drugs, just heartbreaking stories that are a part of, that I've found via your social media pages, that when they talk about how different they feel now, like your guidance of bringing them into some fold that gives them both a safe place to explore how to get out of the cage of something like a PTSD or whatnot, while still, that safe still involves challenge. Like you have to be safe, but then you're moving them and giving them the opportunity to move, I guess. Could you talk a little bit about that? I mean, when those extreme things have presented themselves to you, what does that meant for you?
Well, it gives me more fuel. It's more fire, because I know that, there's, numerous messages and, contacts that I get, but a few of them that has really put more fuel in the fire is, once we do these stories, what we're doing is we're creating this platform for people who have used Jiu Jitsu as a means to overcome adversity, whatever it may have been. Again, PTSD, obesity, it could be domestic violence, it could be whatever it may be.
Right.
And so there's somebody, and people think their story is unique. Man, I don't know if I really, and some people are like, I don't know, it's nothing special. And I don't want to really tell my story. And there's no, I don't force people. I'm like, hey, listen, whenever you're ready, you let us know. And anyways, when they tell this story, there's somebody out there that has the exact same or similar story.
Sure.
And that's the whole thing. I wanted to inspire those people that were watching.
Yeah.
Wow. If that guy can do it, I can do it. So going back, so we had a veteran that we featured on our show, right?
Right.
I still have the text message saved. It was actually an Instagram message. It said, it was a very short sentence. It said, thank you, Army veteran or Marine veteran, whatever, military veteran, the position he had. He said, I had a gun to my head. I put the gun down. My first jiu-jitsu class tomorrow. I will be mad. I'm getting goosebumps just by talking about it.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
Now, when I see something like that, I'm like, you know what? I am on the right path. This is why I am doing what I'm doing. Because I know my story probably would inspire a few people, right? But like, how do I get it to more people?
Yes.
Yeah. Right? And then there was a lady that had her kids murder or her kid.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Oh my God. Yeah.
And that was a surprise. We were just doing stories and she, all of a sudden she's like, nah, and then she opens up and our entire crew was just like, do we keep filming? Like, what do we even do with this? This is, but when people see that, they're like, wow, that's the power of something like jiu-jitsu. And again, jiu-jitsu, your jiu-jitsu could be something else.
Sure.
Right? And we just want to reach out to, people within the network, but the power it has is just, you cannot get that anywhere else. I haven't seen it. And people may say, oh, you can get it through church. You can get it through. Yes, I'm sure there is. But in our little world, if we can inspire people, just at least one, and if you can inspire one, imagine trifecta it has. You know, like the pyramid, it just keeps growing and it keeps growing and keeps growing. Right. And so, yeah.
Why do you think, Kenny, Jiu-Jitsu has that such effect in people? Like, well, I've been in Jiu-Jitsu world for like almost 22 years now, been teaching full time for 8-9 years. So I see that a lot, right? And I found my reasons why this, but the way how you were doing, right? You were not like just getting people that are under your umbrella, right? It's not only your students, you have like so many more. So we're gonna have different stories and different circumstances and situations. Why do you think Jiu-Jitsu has such a power to transform people's lives like that, or to give them an outlet, or just put them on the right path again?
I have a very good answer for this, and I've been asked this question. I've been thinking about this question. There's two parts to this. Okay, the first part, mainly, well, I'd say three parts. First part is the physical challenge, right? For most people, for most adults, especially here in the United States, once they are out of the school system, high school, college, what do? They usually get a job, they may get married or have something. And so your schedule is usually, okay, work 9 to 5, get stuck in traffic, be stressed, hang out with friends on the weekends, if that, and you're limited to the number of friends you have too, okay? And so you don't get that physical challenge. You stop learning, period. There's nothing else to learn. If you went to school, you graduated with a degree, okay, well, you're going to work and you have a small number of people that you mingle with. That's it. Your life actually sucks. There's really nothing. I hate to say it like that, but it sucks. I see it. I see my neighbors all the time. If they have a chance to just get together, they sit in the garage and drink beers, and that's all they have, okay? So before we even go there, physical challenges, it gets them in the moment. To try these things, right? In the moment, like, and it takes the false sense of their confidence out. Every man thinks, oh, I see red, But once they get on the mat, They learn the truth about, wow, you know, this 13-year-old boy just wrapped me up and choked me out. Well, I'm for real this time, and I'm gonna go. No, it doesn't work that way. So either A, it humbles them, and so they want to learn more, or B, they just kind of avoid it and said, you know what, I don't want to do this. So I think that humbleness comes from that, and that physical challenge. And they start saying, wow, I wasn't able to shrimp. Now I can shrimp. I wasn't able to escape the mountain position. Now I can escape. Wow, now I'm able to submit people. It gives them this empowerment of like, oh, wow, I could do this too. And of course, it takes that time. Within that time, they're learning about themselves physically and even mentally. They're like, wow, I didn't know I was this strong. Right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, when I listened to some of the stories on your YouTube channel in particular that I was reviewing this week, when you listen to a woman say, my children were murdered, to me, and having had some tragedy in my life about, you know, we're losing children, like, which is just different than other types of experiences, not my own children, thank God, but in my, you know, a nephew in particular in the last couple of years. I bring it up because to me, that feels like an impossible situation. Like, how do you function? It seems impossible to me to do it. However, life requires, you know, you function. And so you have this sort of tension between, I don't think there's any way I can do this, and I have to find a way to do this. And for me, as a person who came to jiu-jitsu as an older person, I started when I'm 50. So don't worry, the 50s are fine, Professor Kenny. You're going to love them. You know, don't worry
Not
about
when you've
that.
been training over 25 years. Now I'm broken.
Yeah. All right. Well, be that as it may, it's going to be okay. But it's that feeling of jiu-jitsu for me feels sometimes impossible. Like, and the professor would tell you, maybe it is impossible for me, but yeah, you know, that being able to learn some of the things that other people can do around me. And yet over time, slowly, with a humble disposition and an attentiveness to teaching, you know, I find that I can slowly and incrementally move to make it less impossible. And so when I've listened to some of those heartbreaking stories, for me, that metaphor of like, I can't find a way forward, but then I do. And that feeling of physically, I don't understand how this is possible for me to escape from mount, control somebody, submit somebody. Yet over time, with effort, with consistency, you do.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that seem common to me when I look at how you handle those folks, because you have a gentleness with them, and what I've observed, which gives them space. But you have to have that challenge too. That physical challenge means that something has to be asked of you. It's not just, we can't bestow it on you, like give you a pill. You know, this, we just create the opportunity for you to be in some friction, but that friction yields, you know, a smoother future.
Yeah, and because nowadays everybody's used to the instant gratification.
Right.
Well, I'm hungry. Uber Eats, I can get it. I can call this.
Yes.
I can. Everything is instant gratification. Jiu-jitsu is not.
It is not.
You walk in, I want a black belt. Okay, good luck. Yeah, I'll give you about 10, 15 years, and depends, you know. And again, time may vary depending on who they are, their athletic, their stage in life, and how often they're training. But you're not going to get that overnight. You think, oh man, I'm the best out there. Yeah, okay. Well, there's somebody that's always going to be better than you, and you're going to get humbled, right? So I think those all play into the factor. Okay, the other side of why I think jiu-jitsu is good, and Professor Lucas may agree with me on this. I've done a lot of, I wouldn't say research, but I've done a lot of focusing on why, because I've been in other martial arts all my life too. You know, you name it, I've trained it for many, many, many years. Jiu-jitsu itself, especially here in the United States, I think, now there's some friction. Oh, American Jiu-Jitsu, that's a whole nother, you know, story. But I think the Jiu-Jitsu that came from Brazil, the Brazilian, the South American culture is what makes it so admiring and so close and brings that friendship. Because if you look at, let's say, Eastern martial arts, it's very militant. It's very yes sir, no sir, and there's no problems with that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
You're not your instructor and yourself as a student will never be friends. That's always like your teacher. Like there's always that humbleness, like, okay, I'm gonna bow like this and that. And so the class structure is where you go, it's almost militant. Like you go, you learn, that's it. It's a place of learning, and you find yourself. With jiu-jitsu, we walk in, I mean, we bow maybe what, twice? I mean, I obviously different schools are a little bit different. Twice.
Yeah.
We start and we finish. That's it. Everything else is like, hey, Professor Kenny. We slap hands, we hug each other, we sit on the mats, we talk about life, we hang out, we drink beers together. Like the culture, that closest culture.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Is what I think, okay, and people may disagree with me, but that's what makes jiu-jitsu so special. Because think about what other martial arts has that connection.
Yeah.
There are great martial arts out there. I'm not saying which martial arts is the best. I think every martial arts has something to offer for somebody, right?
Yeah.
But this sense of team, family, like this closeness, seriously, I think it goes back to, again, that South American culture, because I see it all the time, like shaking hands before class starts. Like there's schools that I visited where I go and, I would walk on the mat and everybody just kind of sits there, doesn't say hello. And then, a new student walks in, they just kind of go to the corner. Whereas like, no, that's not the culture, right? And so whether you like somebody or not, and you may have somebody that you're BFFs with, and you may have somebody that you don't really like, but we all show respect. We walk up, we shake hands, we say goodbye to each other. Man, if you come into my house, I want you to say hello to me. Like, don't just walk, and that's the same thing with our staff. Like our staff is trained that way, where if you're coming in, my front desk, my managers and stuff, they're all going to know you by name. They're all going to say hello. They're going to ask you how your day is. Everybody's bumping hands. Like sometimes it's too much because we have like everybody right around the front desk. Hey, we're talking about like, oh, what move, guys? We got a new student. We got to sign them up, But the culture is what makes, in my personal opinion, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu so great. And I'm not even talking about the training.
Right. Yeah.
I agree 1,000% with you, Kenny. Like 1,000%, man. Like Professor Maestro Feitosa once, he told me that like sometimes just a message at the end of the class or the hanging out after class, right? Talk with each other can be way more important than the technique that they learned that day.
Oh yeah.
Because that's
especially mentally.
Yes.
Especially when we're talking about empowering people. Maybe Professor Lucas starts. He doesn't have friends. He doesn't have nowhere to go. Right. This is his only outlet. And especially here in the United States, it's different in Brazil. Everybody's in little, neighborhoods. Everybody has neighborhood friends. But like here, again, once you're out of school, you have your own family. You don't really. You go home, you go to work, and that's basically what you have. But when you have a set of friends or teammates that you can be like, hey, let's hang out. Let's go. We're going to go to the tournament as a team where everybody's there cheering for each other. The energy is there. It's powerful. And then you're hanging out. You're congratulating each other. And then next thing you know, you're like, man, I want to try that out. And then they're like, yes, let's go together. Like, man, that's just so powerful. And again, I think it goes back to the culture, because no other culture, martial arts culture, I think has that. Again, it's more of a hierarchy. Like you do this, and people and that. And that's, I think, why the sport has gotten so popular, because of that reason. People may not think so. People may, I just love jiu-jitsu, I want to be a world champion, this and that. But if you don't have the right environment to grow, then
that's that. I mean, in the early days of me coming to Professor Lucas's gyms, the first thing that I had an eye towards was how the kids were treated, because that to me was going to be the bellwether of the real values of the system. I mean, I knew I was going to be coming in as an adult, but I was curious what type of people was I going to be surrounded in, and the ways in which the kids classes are taught in Professor Lucas's world give all of the things that you just mentioned. And I can tell you, as a lifelong athlete, even having had some success as an athlete in my life, what I really remember were the dynamics between me and my teammates, me and my coaches. Although it was fun to win and so on and so forth, what really made those experiences was what went on between the people. And so having touched different types of athletics at different types of levels, even, what is truly high level sports, say soccer, like, you may be an extraordinary Division I soccer player, and now perhaps there are opportunities to turn that into a job, but mostly you're playing a game, and that game, the time for you to play that game will come to a conclusion, and what you'll have are the memories of the experience and the ways in which you connect. And so for me, sport in a lot of ways is a character development exercise primarily, and you use the body and the relationship to people as that. And so when I watched how he was doing that for the kids, they were challenging them, giving them a chance to find their limits while keeping them safe and being mindful of what was going on between them. So, I mean, to hear you say that, I think is true. And you've got a chance to sample this globally. I mean, I've seen, videos of
So
you
let me tell
all
you a
over
funny
the place.
story. So
Yeah, tell us.
Please,
my ethnicity, I'm an American, but ethnicity wise, I'm Korean. So I was planning, I've been there once, when I was younger. So I wanted to make a plan to go there and, share jiu-jitsu and visit the motherland. So I met a guy here. He visited my school years ago, and he's a black belt. He's doing some stuff over there. I'm like, hey man, I would love to set up like a seminar or even a camp. And and so basically kind of like the camp where we do. I mean, I was like, man, we'd love to go to the beach and set up, we'll hang out, this and that. And like he wrote me back, and what was surprising is again, there's cultural difference. And he said, it's rare, nobody hangs out after. Why would they hang out with people that you train with? That doesn't, like, again, culture, that's what. And then they're like, we don't do camps. People can't afford camps, and they can't get away from their family because they're just always working. And so everything that I had in mind got scrapped because what the culture that I know of and what we try to create here, even the culture that we're creating here, actually is more of a South American culture.
Right.
Again, hey, everybody just goes and hangs out, whatever, right? And so over there, none of that. So jiu-jitsu is growing, but I don't know if they have the same cultural experiences that I would love to present them, right? Like, are they gaining something other than training?
Right.
I don't know that, because I know what we have. I know what I have. I know what we can create and what we can offer. But same thing, like even in Europe, Germany was like, depending on where I was, some had some, close friends that would hang out. Maybe because I was there, they would come hang out, right? But that's what I advocated for. I'm like, guys, after the seminar, let's everybody go out. Let's get some German food. Let's go get some beers, whatever, right? So the culture is different. But I truly believe for jiu-jitsu to be this life-changing martial art, a tool, I think the aspect of that culture, needs to be there.
Yeah. Yes. It's so important. It's so important. And I'm sure you're gonna relate it to that as well, Kenny. But the amount of students sometimes that you have that sometimes they just go to a class just to hang out, right? Like maybe they're a little bit late or they are busy, but they stop for 30 minutes to check on everyone, to watch the class, to talk, or sit on the mat during open mat and start like just chatting for like an hour or something. And it's like, yes, it is much more than the delivering the technique.
Yeah. And so I watched a documentary on Netflix. It's called The Green Zone, Blue Zone or Green Zone? Blue Zone. So it talks about different parts of the world where they have these centurions, like people over 100 years old. Why? And there's different reasons why. But one of the most important things that I thought was sense of community, having a place to go.
Yeah.
So I have some black belts that are, in their 60s, they're about to retire. It's like, well, what are you going to do with your time now? It's like, well, I'm probably just going to come hang out. Watch guys here. You don't even need a trainer at 65, 67. He's a black belt, man. He training for almost 20 years. He's probably going to just come and sit and talk shit about people. Like, hey, what are you doing? But having a place to go, knowing that you have a community of people that you can have access to.
Right.
For mental health, I mean, I
Yeah,
can't
I
say
mean,
that.
Starbucks was founded on that premise, right? Which is interesting to
Sure.
me, right? The third place, like not your workplace, not your home, you know, but another place just to go. And when I watch people who come in to just be present to their teammates, even though they're not training for whatever reason, they don't have time, all of that. In this cultural difference, this exporting of a Brazilian culture to the world through jiu-jitsu, which I agree with you. And I think it's a fascinating friction at times between, like, Germany is not known for having a Brazilian type of attitude towards,
They don't even
how
smile.
exactly, right. So we have a much, what might constitute friendly in Germany might not look friendly to a Brazilian, and what physical proximity, my family's Irish and Italian, what's a natural physical difference in terms of hugging or touching people among Italians is unlikely to be the same in Germany again.
Right.
Do you have a story of, like, that might have been the most obvious dissonance between, hey, this is just how we do things here, and as you brought it to this community, they just kind of didn't know what to do with it? Any stories of people being not in a, like a, but just shocked, like, well, wait a second, you're going to put your legs around me? Or I mean, I don't know what would be the thing, but
Um, I think there's some people that first walk in through our doors and who really don't have an idea what jiu-jitsu is all about. And the first thing that comes out of there, especially for women, out of their mouth is like, I don't want to be so close to somebody. I'm like, yes, I understand that, but you just told me that you want to get into this for self-defense. I'm like, do you think you can just tell the bad guy, like, no, you're too close to me, and then he's going to get away? I'm like, no, this is the worst position you're going to end up on. The guy's going to be around your legs. He's going to be on top of you. He's going to be smothering you. Like, you need to, like your shirt says, you need to get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And so to watch people like that on day one, and then they be the one now, like, like have no problems with, rolling even no-gi and being close to people, getting sweated on. Just that sentiment right there, it's so important for people.
Yeah. I mean, as you continue your international travels and do this, it'll be, maybe there'll come another time where you come back and talk to us. I think the different cultures will experience that. It'll be more or less natural. I think in this country, there's enough sort of observation of different ways of being with each other. But my guess is that you may find yourself in a place where it's very monocultural, like I've never been to Korea, but I don't think of Korea as having an incredible melting pot where tons of other influences are shaping. I think of it as it's a Korean culture, and they're
It
kind
was a
of,
very, well, it supposedly is one of the very homogenous countries, but I think that has changed so much with
okay,
lately, with a lot of foreigners living over there, a
okay,
lot of food influences. I mean, like the average, men over there, their height is average like 6 foot now.
oh
Like,
wow, that's very different.
which is crazy, right? And so now I think the culture has changed, it's shifted, and
Right.
so you've got different people, different looking people, different
Okay.
ideologies,
Yep.
different, and people are standing up to it's I think it's changing.
Yes.
Now,
Yes.
they still have their old ways, obviously, but it is changing. And so it's fun to see the different cultures, and especially with jiu-jitsu being involved. Like, how can this martial art
Right.
penetrate a
Yes.
culture
Right.
and even, have a shift and change with their cultural differences?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I find that, for me, that's a fascinating thing. I mean, the exportation of this art throughout the world is, it's the art is an ambassador of certain ideas, and the ideas live physically rather than in words often, right? I mean, because there are places in the world where I think these movements, this way of being in proximity to each other, will be more foreign, so to speak, than others. And well, anyway, I find that interesting. I'm glad that you're doing it. I think it's good for the world. We could talk to you for hours and hours, so I want to be careful. But I always got to know, like, your favorite story, and I know you got a million of them. But when you think of the story that's the emblem in your mind of, like, jiu-jitsu affecting somebody the most profoundly, maybe you could pick one and tell us what
Yeah,
happened.
there are a lot of stories, but I think the one that really stands by me is, so 12, 13 years ago, I was able to teach a seminar in Brazil. So which was kind of the joke was, oh, you have a Korean American guy teaching Japanese jiu-jitsu back in Brazil, something like that. Something like
that. Where in Brazil, Professor?
In Mato Grosso, Cuiabá.
Oh, nice.
So I have friends there, so I visited there
Uh-huh.
times. I go there. I try to go there before the pandemic, like every year.
Uh-huh.
But again, you see,
hot there.
Yeah, you see the poverty too. You see how lower class people. But anyways, the thing that really brought my attention was, so my buddy out there would work for the social projects. Okay, and this social project in particular had probably a group of, I don't know, 30, 40 kids. And I was able to be a part of that and teach a class for the social project group. And some of them would have, a complete gi, but all torn up. Some of them would just have a gi top. Some of them would just have the pants. Some of them, it was whatever way. But within that group, there was probably 3 or 4, a handful of physically challenged kids there, with Down syndrome, with this, with that. And to see, and I was able to be part of it, and to see my friends, black belts that were teaching them. I mean, the affection that they showed. I mean, they would come, like, hug and kiss them, and they would just, I mean, and again, I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about this, but like, that is what, for me, jiu-jitsu was all about. Like, that's when I said, and again, my mind changed. I'm like, I don't care about, that's why I don't care really about the competitive aspect anymore. It's like, okay, you have your Gordon Ryan, you have the Nicholas Marigalis, you have all these. Give them the limelight. Okay, good, but that's not what changes people.
Right.
Little kids are looking at that, be like, oh, I want to be like that. Little kids, people look at people like the kids that I'm talking about, right? People that come through these challenges, they look at that and be like, oh man, I want to change my life. There's so much more importance, I think, in that than being a world-class athlete. Now, don't get me wrong, world-class athletes,
yes, sure.
They embody our sport, and I think it's incredible to see that, but to see something like that, the humanism, the skin-to-skin touch, the vulnerability that they show each other, it's something incredible. It's something that you really can't even put into words, actually.
There's going to be people listening that may not have been familiar with you, and this is maybe their introduction. And there's a lot of ways in which people can learn about you and experience sort of your teaching and some of the things that you're talking about. So could you kind of describe, like, if someone wants to go learn about you, maybe talk about your book, the documentary that you put?
So my book is actually done. I had a let me see. I've only got a few copies made, but they're all done. I only got a few copies here. But again, they can find me on social media. Everything is Kenny Kim BJJ, YouTube, Instagram. I mean, it's easy. And they can reach out for anything. And I do, I teach. I'm actually got a camp that I'm hosting out in Barcelona in September, right before Master Worlds. We'll do that and go there. Every year I try to host big camps and stuff. I also teach a lot. I mean, every month I travel and taught seminars, and then I also do business consultations for schools that are looking to, grow. And it's no gimmick like, oh, we'll get you this many leads. It's none of that stuff. It's literally rewriting, like, okay, well, let's see what your problem.
Culture.
Yeah, and see how we can help you. So, and anything that has to do with jiu-jitsu, I'm there.
All right. Well, that's awesome. Well, it was we were so excited that you were willing to spend some time with us. This has been a great conversation. Maybe you'll come back another time. We can do it again. Yes. But this was great. Professor Lucas, anything?
No, that's awesome, Professor Kenny. Thank you so much. I had a few more questions that I hope next time I can make it. We can spend a little more time to talk about it. But such a positive energy, coming from you, and I think what you were doing, it's awesome. showing the true value and of jiu-jitsu and helping so many people. So please keep doing it. You know, keep spreading the jiu-jitsu culture and word and values to the whole world. And that's awesome, man. So thanks so much for being here with us. And
Thank you guys for having me on the show. I definitely want coffee and I want that shirt.
Okay, it's coming your way. That's awesome.
Okay, great.